Welcome to episode 39. Today I have one of my great friends on, Janet, the Pink Realtor. She shares with us on how she recreates herself whenever she moves to a new market, overcoming depression and anxiety during difficult times, and how to even pivot during this time that we're facing right now. I'm grateful for her not only sharing her struggles, but also how she overcame them and then came out a better person. Enjoy. This is Unleash Your Inner Legend, a podcast featuring modern day legends sharing their life choices, habits, and routines that got them to where they are today. Get ready to be inspired and to take massive action to unleash your inner legend. Welcome to the Unleash Your Inner Legend podcast. Today I have a near and dear friend of mine on. I am so excited. Welcome, Janet, the Pink Realtor.
Oh, thank you so much, Hollie, for having me.
Girl, I am so excited to talk about your journey and kind of let listeners know more about you. But before we kind of get into the whole story of everything, how you got started on the career path you're on, let's kind of share with everyone, like, what do you do and like, where are you based out of?
Well, I am a realtor. I've been in the business for 14 years. And right now I am back home in my home sweet home of San Antonio, Texas. And I'm part of Maloof International Group here in town. So that's what we do is real estate.
I love it. So let's talk about this real estate journey. The cool thing is that's how we got to know each other. I got the privilege to work with you as a colleague, and boy, those were the times. So
those were some good days. Good old Lawton.
Lot of craziness. So let's talk about it. Like, what got you into real estate?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny that you're actually asking me this today because as a matter of fact, just yesterday, you know, when you're in the shower and you have like those like deep thought moments and you're like, how did I get here, right? We all do that in the showers, especially with everything going on right now with quarantine. And so, yeah, I was thinking about like, when was the actual first time I ever even thought of real estate? And for years, I swear I've been giving everybody the story of Lawton because it's true. So when I first moved to Lawton, Oklahoma, you know, we got stationed there, my family and I. So I saw this big old sign at the Caldwell Banker office, and it said that, you know, take classes, yada, yada, and I signed up for it, and immediately I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, we relocate so much with the military, and I just want to be that person who already knows how that feels and helps others, you know, with the relocation process. So I've always told everyone that's the story, and it really is. However, last night I was thinking of all the way back to Georgia, right? So that was my first move out of Texas. I was 19 years old. Of course, I got married, and so with the military, we had to transition over to Georgia. So there I was in this state that I had, you know, I never knew anyone. I didn't have a soul for, you know, thousands of miles away that I knew, and I started working at a hotel. So that was my background here in San Antonio. I worked for the Marriott River Center. So when I was working there at the hotel in Georgia, I specifically remember that I had that idea of, hey, I want to do real estate. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like, I just had a draw to it. And I remember I got so discouraged because when I was working at the hotel, there was a couple of sheriffs that would come into the hotel for lunch, and they would come in and do the buffet or whatever. It was a country style buffet, and so they would come in, and I remember speaking to a few of them about real estate because some of them did it like part-time, right, when they weren't doing all their sheriff duties. And I felt so discouraged because I literally got discouraged with him saying, it's so hard, it's really hard to make it, especially as a woman, you know, you're not going to make it. That's why I do it part-time. And so at the time, I thought that industry was just like totally out of my hands, like totally out of reach. And so I put it aside. And then a whole, like 8 months later, when we moved to Oklahoma, that's when I saw the Caldwell Banker sign.
I love it. And the crazy thing too is like, you know, I think it all comes down like personality type, like your strengths, your weaknesses. And for those who don't know Janet just yet, like Janet is like the definition of a perfect real estate agent. She's outgoing, she's personable, she works hard. So it's crazy to think that like, you know,
someone just because they weren't a fit for the career. They just flat out
Yes.
encourage you. So it's like, that's crazy to think that like for that moment you had that doubt, but I'm glad that you didn't, because we wouldn't have crossed paths for sure. Just because of how we met. So you get your real estate license, you start kind of like navigating the waters. What's it like, when you were traveling and you were moving around? Like, how did you get connected back within the community when it came to real estate? Like, what kind of tips could you give out to those who maybe they're just starting out and they don't have any connections? I mean, even though you're like an established real estate professional, you still, like, if you pick up a move, you still gotta, almost recreate yourself and reestablish yourself as an agent. What tips would you give to listeners on how they can kind of be known in their marketplace, being brand new or just new to the area?
Oh my goodness, and isn't that the truth? So with me, it was very hard every time I moved to a new city because I had to rebrand myself. I had to, I didn't know anyone. Like you said, how do you get leads? How do you do sales? How do you do transactions when you're in a city that you didn't even grow up in, that you know no one, right? And for me, the thing that I think that I know for sure helped me survive this industry is my personality. Because if I wasn't outspoken, if I wasn't, fearless, I definitely would have gotten cast out of the industry in so many different moves. Just because if you're not out there, we always say hunting, it's not going to come to you. The business is never going to come to you. You're not just going to sit back and people are going to be calling you off the hook like, hey, I heard you got your real estate license. I want to buy a house. That never happens. So I think a lot of advice I give a lot of the younger agents is that, right? So a lot of them think, hey, I passed my test. I got my license today. Like, let's go. I'm going to start rolling in dough. And unfortunately, that's definitely not the case. And so I do help within our market center, teach a lot of our classes, which we call Ignite classes. I teach them how we host a mega open house and the standards we have for our team, right? Because a lot of the typical agent will put an open house sign in their yard and just pray people come in and pray that someone comes in and just puts in an offer, sells that house, and that's never the case. You have to definitely think outside the box. And I think what helped me a lot too from all of the different brokerages I worked at, well, I'm very loyal, so I only worked for four with y'all, right, when I started. So 4, and it was because of moves. The only reason I ever switched brokerages was because of the moves, right? If it wasn't for the moves, I would have stayed at one brokerage forever. That's just my loyalty. And the thing that helped me with that is when you're rebranding yourself, you have to think outside the box, as in, what else can I do differently, right? So we go back to like the standards are putting 5 signs on a yard. We put like 20. And I remember every time I'm putting out my signs, I always think of when I was part of, the J Kinder crew, and when we would put out just like all these tons of signs in the street, and all these people would come by the open houses because they would just be like, hey, those signs, what's going on? Like, is this house pretty much being given away? And so I always give them creative ideas. Of course, a big thing for me is it kind of just stuck with me, the whole Pink Realtor thing. I've been wearing pink, my whole life, right? My nails, my lipstick, and everything. And so it kind of, at first, it started off as like something funny. It started in, people would be like, hey, oh, you're the one always wearing pink. Oh, you're the one in, always with pink bright lipstick or whatever. And so people would just say, oh, the Pink Realtor. Oh, I know who's on the other side of this transaction. It's a Pink Realtor, So I tell everybody, what makes you you? Because that's really what's going to help you survive in this industry. You can copy and model someone else's systems, and at the end of the day, if you're not yourself, if you don't put your own personality to it, you're really not going to survive, because there's tons of agents, doing the same thing.
100%. I love that, because it's a lot that you mentioned. There's brand loyalty, there's, brand consistency, but there's also that guerrilla marketing. You're everywhere. Don't put 10 signs out, put 20. Don't send out 5 postcards, send out 500, whatever it's got to do to reestablish yourself. But you've also got to remain consistent, and then also get clear on your marketing messages too, which I know Janet, like, it's funny about you is like, I know with you guys moving so much and so often, it's like, I wouldn't know exactly where you'd be at, but I'd always know that you're selling real estate. I'd always know you're wearing pink, and always knew that you were representing the best interest of your clients. So it was just brand consistent messages that, that was just what really reinstated who you were as a professional. So yeah, like you wear a lot of pink. Let's kind of talk about this. This is very cool. This is a unique way that you've done with what you've done with personal branding, because it's like, even when I knew you like 10 years ago, when I first met you back in 2010, like, you were wearing pink. So why pink? Like, when did that whole thing start?
I honestly, everybody asks me that question, and I can't think of like, like a awakening moment when I was just like, that's gonna be it. That's what I'm gonna do now. It just kind of over the years, even when I was a teenager, I'm always drawn to pink. It's kind of an obsession. It can be a bad thing sometimes. So like I walk into a store, it could be like the most random thing that I don't need at the time, like a pink pot, and I just want it because it's pink. And so half of my closet is pink, probably like 20% of it is black, because I always tell people, I'm either all pink or I'm just going to be, a little black, like a little bit of my soul. So everybody thinks it's hilarious, me and my, sarcasm. And so I don't know, I've just been wearing pink forever. My nail people already know like what shade of pink or what glitter pink, or, they just know that I'm not going to change or diverge from that, because that's just who I am. And I love that we do live somewhere where we can be who we are, and we don't have to, follow everyone else. We don't have to be in uniform. And, it's pink. I mean, and it's not a color for most men. So that kind of puts it in different perspectives. Like, sometimes I'll give away cups or things that are pink. And a lot of my guy clients, I'm like, okay, maybe I doubt myself a little bit, like, oh, they're going to be like, I don't want this. And, they still dig it. They love it. It's cool. And it's just something that they always say they remember me by. So, yeah, I love it.
I love it too. It's a great way to really create like what is unique about you, and really make people remember you. Cause you see people like, acting ridiculous, being a little crazy, whatever, and to get that brand recognition. But you don't always have to act crazy to get attention. You just got to be consistent in your messaging and your branding. And you nailed it with that. Cause to be honest, I don't know any other pink realtors. Like, if I think of, even if I see pink, I think of you. Like, you've done such a great job of positioning yourself. And one thing too, I really want to talk to you about, because you can share so much insight on this, is, you were talking about, the sheriffs, said, hey, it's going to be hard for you, especially being a woman. And, a lot of us women who are professionals, we do struggle with like the mom guilt. We struggle with the tip, things like that. However, I really want to talk to you about a little bit more deeper into it about hardships. What advice would you give for other professionals, men or women, on overcoming depression, anxiety? But then while you're battling that, you still got to take care of your clients. You still got to have that family balance. What advice would you give, and how do you handle that?
Oh my goodness. So if you would have asked me this question about 3 years ago, I would have had honestly no idea what advice to give anyone, right? However, I clearly know a lot about that now. So just a little bit about the past couple of years have been pretty rough for me on my personal side, just because, I had to go through a divorce, and, it was just like all of my plans I had, of course, our plans are always changing in life. And so I really thought and was convinced that this was going to be my final move, right? Moving back to San Antonio, coming back home, being close and anchored down to family, and that everything was just going to be like a bliss, right? Like, I've made it this far, and this is what I have come to, conquer, and we're going to build our dream house, and this is going to be it for me with the white picket fence. And unfortunately, things did not happen like that, right? It was kind of coming back home was kind of a dead end to everything I knew from my life for the past, 13 years before that. And so everything came to a halt, and it really did test me big time in my business, because if I didn't have the mentality and the strength and the structure I had as an individual, I would not have stayed a realtor. And that's a fact. Even just the whole divorce and everything, it almost put me out of business because, I went from 13 years of real estate, doing it more of like extra income, secondary income, to my household, and just never having that full stress of being the provider and the breadwinner for my children. So I always had I still put my clients, interest first, even now, and even through when I was going through depression and all that. However, I will say it was a little bit easier putting all their interests first and being just stressed about work rather than life for a couple of years. So now I appreciate that I had all that season. It was a really a soft season for me, and it wasn't so hard. And when I went into being a single mother and having to survive and support my children all together, especially after having this dream house building, of course, a lot more bills, it was really, really hard. And honestly, if I would not have had a supportive team, I don't think I would have made it because, there was times where I was going through something and it would carry on onto my business, as in like that day I would just get so upset about a transaction, right? Because I was so terrified of losing that deal because this was my, my income for me and my family and for me and my children. So I would get so depressed and discouraged, and I would sit in my car at the office crying. And if it wasn't for my friend Scott, who I work with right now, if it wasn't for him always giving me good, encouraging words and just letting me know, it was so funny. He would always tell me, you're a boss, like don't let anything defeat you, and it was a big mental struggle for me. There were so many days, so many nights I cried and I just wanted to give up because I was like, what's going to be easier for me to deal with at this moment? Leaving real estate, yeah, and just doing something where I clock in at 9, clock out at 5, but then I'm done, right? I'm done dealing with people. I'm done dealing with transactions. I'm just checked out mentally. And if it wasn't for him to continue to push me, I was definitely going to be taken out of the business. And so what happened, interestingly, was that first year, my sales dropped tremendously. And it was pretty bad. And this past year, I actually was the first year that I was 100% on my own, living with no help from anyone, no spouse or anything. And I really did well. Like I'm proud of myself. And at the end of the year, I sat back and thought, okay, I'm definitely not where I was supposed to be. Definitely not where I want to be. However, I did that all on my own, and for my children. And I didn't let the pressures of life take over me. And the biggest thing we have to remember too when we're dealing with personal issues is leaving those troubles at the door, because people can read you, right? Especially me. Me and my faces are my big expressions, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So people can definitely tell when something is wrong with me. So I always have to, like, in an instant, just, okay, I'm leaving my baggage at the door. It's time to just, rock it out and just handle this deal, handle this transaction, handle, what's the best outcome for my clients in this situation, and just putting them first and taking my whole life mentally out of it. And then once I'm ready and done and everything's been handled and everything's going good in that, then going back to take care of myself. And so it was hard. I didn't know anything about depression. I didn't know anything about anxiety. I didn't even know what that word was. And so I unfortunately had to deal with all of it. I dealt with depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts that, people that know me, that's hard for me to even say out loud, because people that know me know that I'm just always putting on a strong game face. And I would have never thought, that could happen to me. Like I'm just so strong mentally that you can't bring me down like that. And it's pretty interesting what happens when you go through a situation yourself rather than looking into someone else's situation. So the advice I just give everyone is just, you still have to take care of yourself at the end of the day, whether that's meditating. Of course, for me, it's praying all the time, spending time with your children, things that make you happy, and taking care of yourself just physically and mentally, spiritually is going to carry on to your business, because everything you do privately will carry on to your business, and it'll show, whether it's in the month or the whole year.
I absolutely love it. That's amazing advice. I mean, you're so spot on when it comes to not only just like mentally and physically working on yourself, but then also like lowering your guard and checking that ego and allowing yourself to accept help from your team to have that support system. Because I mean, I've been there and I've done that. I mean, I feel like a lot of us have, been through those dark times in life, whether it's a job loss, divorce, if it's change in life, death, whatever it is. But it's like, I think a big understanding, I think a big point of it is like understanding that this is a season, and like making those choices, knowing that this is going to pass. So like you said, you could have totally
Yes.
gave up your whole career that you worked so hard and established yourself as, but that would have been it could have been such a permanent choice if you were to quit that career and go completely something else. But like from that, and I mean, I'm just saying this from even like, just a strength standpoint, is like you have became such a more stronger, independent, and just better person after dealing with all that, picking yourself up every day and going through the rhythms and going through everything, and just not allowing it to really define who you are, but really kind of figure out who you are as a person. So like, going through that and talking about that, I feel like this is going to lead us into our next conversation piece. Let's talk about like current reality. So you're seeing coronavirus, and we're actually experiencing, not necessarily, unfortunately some of us are affected by the virus itself, but a lot more people are affected by the economy that's followed with the impact. So I know like right now, when you first start real estate, it's fun, it's exciting, but then you see a market shift. And right now, I wouldn't say it's a market shift right now, because I feel like it's just, current, just based on the current situation. Of course, it's always subject to change, but right now we're starting to see a shift, not necessarily in the market, but a shift in the way we're doing business. So it's cool to see agents pivoting and not panicking. What do you currently do
Yes.
to kind of, adapt with the current situations we're experiencing?
Yes, and I think that's very true. What everybody is doing in our marketplace is we're using this time wisely. We're using it to learn and to really just master our craft. This is not the first time, unfortunately, that I go through a market shift. And so it hasn't shifted yet. However, I think that it's going to be, of course, affecting us here shortly. And I do think that the past season in my life, when I was in Oklahoma, when I first started off as an agent, back then with me and you when we were at the office, all that, I mean, it was a bliss, right? So right when I got my license, I was like, okay, I'm not even going to finish college, because this is it. This is where the money's at. Like, we're going to be, doing amazing. And then what happened, like literally within a year, we had the, market shift in 2008 around that time. And so for me, I was like, oh my gosh, this business is just when I'm learning it, it's like just crashing. It's going to be over forever, And of course, I learned over time that everything, turned back around and the economy got better. And so there's always going to be these little shifts and these changes within the real estate market and within just everything, the economy in general. And so I think that season is helping me through this season, because had I not been an agent years ago, I would be panicked right now, because I would be like, okay, I'm the only, person supporting my children right now. And how am I going to make it with, we're just commission based, and, everybody's just having to stay home. So of course, some buyers aren't able to put in offers like we expected or we projected. Our goals for the month are definitely now, not where they should be. And so instead, we're not letting fear take over, right? We're choosing faith over fear, and we're using this time to think outside the box. Again, I go back to that message. What can we do to still work our market and to still, help our clients without physically always, being there with these mega open houses, and just everything is we're all pivoting, right? And so what I like a lot is that we're coming up with just different ideas, like, hey, doing open houses, like with virtual tours instead of, people coming over physically, everybody just going on online and the agent walking through the floor plan and, bringing out everything on the home and giving all the information online rather than in person. So just thinking about different ideas and how we can still continue with our business, I think it's going to help us in the long run. And of course, we're going to see, just like we did back then in that season, we saw a lot of agents leave the business because it did get really hard. And I think that's going to happen again here shortly. We're going to definitely just see the strong agents make it through. However, my advice to the agents out there right now that are just at home thinking, like, panicking, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to get another job. Don't get another job because it will distract you, right? I've done that. I've done that myself where I've done something else on the side, and it definitely distracts you from real estate, and that's not what you want to do, especially during this critical time. So for me, I've been, reading my shift book. I've been doing all these meetings with my team, and just we're still following up with our goals, and we're still doing everything we do weekly, just not in person, and just restructuring our schedule where everything is online and virtual. And like I said, just using our time wisely to read up on everything. There's so many books on real estate, and there's so many things you could be doing right now, script practicing, role playing with your partners, reaching out to your sphere influence that maybe you're not going to buy right now, however, they might later on the year, maybe next year, who knows, with everything going on, maybe they come across an even better job, So just staying focused on the positive and the outcome. There's always going to be, a rainbow at the end of the storm. So it's not the end of it. And I think that's where everybody's getting confused, is everybody's thinking that's it for us, and I'm thankful that I'm not scared during this shift.
You are so spot on with all of that. Like, thinking back in 2008, when we did experience like that recession, we experienced the housing market crash. I didn't get into real estate until 2010, so I didn't get to experience that. But I did go into like a terrible market where it was definitely a buyer's market. But during those times, I know so many mega agents that they're so successful because they made it through those times and they didn't quit. And, it's all about, you can still make those phone calls. You can still utilize the technology we have. And understanding too, it's like looking at the facts, knowing that you see like, China's starting to, allow people to come out of their house without masks on. You're starting to see all this stuff. So it's like, it's scary right now, and it's probably going to keep, it's probably going to keep, going on. We're going to experience this for at least another few weeks, but understanding that it's a season, it's something that you just know once you get through it, you're going to grow even more from learning to adapt and shift, not so much of just quitting or trying to go get another job or trying to do something else. Because it's only been a couple of weeks with us in this current condition. If you can't survive, a couple of weeks in hardship, like you got to really adjust and work on a routine and understand like the whole way of adapting.
Yes. And I think a lot of agents also have to adapt in different forms. Like, we're always, of course, quick to say like, hey, these people, in order to get pre-approval, you need to cut down on your budget and you need to do this and this. And so it's time to take a step back and look at our own finances and our own budgets and think like, hey, what can I cut back on and what can I do and what can I change? Things that I have control over to keep me where I want to be, so that I won't be, taken out of that whole industry, because I'll still be able to carry on even if there is a few bad months, that I'm going to be able to make it to the next month and make it to, the next shift.
I love it. Janet, thank you so much for just walking us through like your journey, just telling us the cool stuff about you, but then also being open and real and just letting people know that, giving that encouragement and then that advice that you gave. I appreciate you being on. And before I let you go, what's the best way for listeners to connect with you, to follow you, and just to kind of, ask you any questions that they may have?
Okay, well, yes, I appreciate it. And, everything from here on out that I do, I will share with you. And so I love that we still stay in touch with each other, even though we're, cities away. And so any advice you can always give me from your point of view out in Dallas, just reach out to me, and, you always have me here for you. As far as if anybody wants to follow my Instagram page, it's Janet Favela Pinky. And I do, like I said, I'll be posting everything pink, so you'll see that it's my page. I also have Janet Favela Pink Realtor. So Janet, your Pink Realtor. Sorry, that's my Instagram page. So connect with me on there. Of course, I'm on Facebook, and I actually am working on my YouTube channel. So I'm also going to use this time right now during this season to launch that, and also my podcast working with you. So I appreciate you, Hollie, and thank you so much for reaching out to me. We'll see each other soon.
Yes. And I am super excited for your podcast. So you guys keep an eye out for that. Have a great one, you guys, and stay safe. And most importantly, stay sane during this time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Unleash Your Inner Legend. For more inspiration, make sure to subscribe by going to unleashyourinnerlegend.com. We'll see you guys next week.